Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the weekly Q&As. So this week we are discussing breathing. Okay, so I know that may sound like a bit of a weird subject because you're thinking, well, I'm sat here watching and listening to this, so obviously I'm breathing. Why would that be a topic we need to discuss? And I was initially of that thought as well. But when it comes to exercise, but also looking at the implications it can have on stress and our mobility as well, is something that can be really, really important. So where we tend to potentially go wrong is when we breathe, what we do over time is we can lose the connection with our diaphragm, which is the muscle that's responsible for us moving through our chest cavity in that sort of area to create space to allow our lungs to do what they need to do, which is change in size as they inflate and deflate. Okay, so our body's set up to do that very well, with the diaphragm acting as a muscle to aid with this and create that space and make that room as you go through. All right, and what we tend to do is over time is we almost, I refer to it as stress breathing. We learn to stress breathe. And what we tend to do is we start to rely on more so the superficial muscles, so muscles that are at the surface. So when you look at people that are exercising and say, for example, you're in the gym and you're in a class, you're in a circuit class, everyone's really blowing, everyone's really working to a maximal effort. And if you have a quick little look around, don't be too weird and creepy about it. Have a look at what people are doing as they're really exerted. Where are they breathing from? What's moving? A lot of the time you'll see this kind of movement with the shoulders sort of lifting and the chest lifting, this kind of thing as they breathe, right? And what's happening there is our diaphragm's just gone into a bit of an idle state, or isn't working anywhere near as much as it potentially could do. And we're then relying on our superficial muscles. So muscles, for example, around the chest, the pecs, the traps, all these kind of areas to create space and allow us to breathe and to kind of assist in that sort of inhaling and exhaling, the change of shape and size of the lungs. Okay, so it's one of those things that, you know, it can be down to numerous reasons as to why we end up doing this, but we tend to cause a bit of disconnection to our diaphragm over time. And it's something that, like I say, can have an implication, first of all, on mobility. So a common area that's quite tight on a lot of people is their upper traps and their neck. And there's lots of small little movers around the neck and the shoulders that will have a role to play in neck mobility. All this sort of stuff. And if you think, when we're breathing, if we're relying on this kind of elevation and depression of the shoulders, that can cause more tension here, because essentially what you're doing is you're just pulling into that space gradually over time. And then if you pair that with being sat at a desk and just, you know, stress being carried a lot through this area in general, that can be another thing that's contributing to tension in that area. Okay, so my voice completely went there. Tension in that area can be caused by that, and it can certainly contribute to that. So that's another thing that can have a bit of a crossover with. But again, if the chest is kind of moving, if we're then pairing that again with this being in this bit of more of a naturally forward position with the shoulders, putting into this kind of pec minor and chest area as well, and we end up in this kind of protracted fixed position, it can have, you can see already how that's going to have a bit of a crossover to muscular tension, right? So that's a big implication. But if we're looking at other things, such as the ability to brace while you're exercising, which is going to be massively important in a lot of disciplines within the gym, if you can't breathe and create tension through your midsection and through your core, you're going to really struggle to keep a complete structure to your movements, especially if you're performing any of the main movements like a squat and a deadlift, for example, because a lot of stability and support through the lower back will come from your ability to brace in that area. Okay, and it's one of those things that, you know, if again you're kind of breathing into this area and you're hunching up, say for example if you're doing a back squat, then again you can just end up creating a lot of force and tension through the upper back. So you can see how it can create a bit of a negative crossover, right? So there's a couple of simple things that you can do to correct this. It's not something that you need to really think, oh my God, I'm not breathing right. Of course you're breathing right, you're alive, okay? So don't get too worried about that side of things. But think, right, well, what can I do to improve this and sort of reconnect with your diaphragm? It's not like a case of it's completely disappeared. It's not going to disappear. That's not physically possible. It's still there. You just need to reawaken, reconnect, okay? So there's a couple of things that you can do. So something that I like to do myself with sort of like the end of a session and a cool down, and also get clients to think about a lot as well, is once they finish the session, I will get them to, on a treadmill, cross trainer, something they can just perform at pretty much a walking pace. I get them to focus on a sort of like 3 to 5 minute time period at the end of the session, just going in through the nose and out through the mouth. Nothing else. Just thinking about getting that nice steady flow and bring their breathing rate back down. But straight away, neurologically, we have a connection as we breathe through our nose to our diaphragm, so that can stimulate that really nicely. Okay, if you want to focus a little bit more so on recreating that connection, especially when it crosses over to bracing, there's a couple of really cool drills you can do that involve you laying on your back. But a nice simple way to kind of create that reconnection that you can do, because it can be super relaxing as well, because if you think with all this movement through here tends to come as a bit of a response from stress as well, with their shoulders moving. If you think about when you're laying in bed and you're drifting off, you could implement some breathing practice. That might again sound a bit weird, but laying on your back, if you place one hand on your chest, one hand down on your stomach area, so like this, as you're laid in bed. And then as you're breathing, just think about what's moving. Where are you feeling the engagement? Where are you feeling the feedback from? Is it from your chest area, or is it from more towards your stomach? Okay, what's moving there? And just don't really get in your head about it, but just start to think a little bit more about stimulating that area around the stomach. Okay, and you don't need to do this for a long period of time. Say, for example, you could do sets of 5 breaths. So you could do 3 sets of 5 breaths when you're in bed at night. Okay, just before you're going off to sleep. It'll help to relax you as well, because you're really focusing on deep breathing. If you think with sort of like a speed to the breaths, if you think for a count of like 3 seconds in, 2 seconds out, there's real nice, deep, steady breathing. Okay, so you get a chance to practice that. By doing that, that creates that bit of a reconnection with your diaphragm again. And that can be a really good way of just reconnecting that. And then over time, what you want to be able to do as well is kind of breathe sort of further round, more so into the oblique area and stuff like that as well, because you can sort of breathe and push into that space as well with practice. You know, it's not something, like I say, it's important that you don't get completely caught up on this, but these areas are something that can be implemented and practiced that will have a really strong crossover with, first of all, relieving muscular tension, relieving stress, but also improving your ability to brace, which if you're training regularly and you're doing a squat, you're doing a bench press, and you're doing a deadlift, all these sort of stuff, creating full body tension when you're doing these large compound movements, which feature heavily in a lot of gym environments and a lot of gym programs, is going to be really, really beneficial to be able to create that stability. Okay, a lot of the time when, without going for a huge diversion here, it's one of those things that really tends to be one of the big areas that breaks down in a lift will be core stability. And if you can better in tune that with your core brace, then you're going to be onto a huge winner, because that will cross over so positively, just creating a lot more stability and just making your movement feel a lot more bulletproof. Okay, so we're not going to go really any more into depth than that at the moment. Just start to be aware of where you're breathing from, especially when you're exerting yourself, and put it into practice. Like I say, when you're in bed, 3 sets of 5 breaths, 3 seconds in, 2 seconds out, and see how you get on. Let me know any thoughts. Let me know how you get on with that. Be awesome to hear back from you guys. That's everything from me today. Much love, stay safe, and speak soon.